Poots, do you think that with that kind of spirit of cooperation that this executive can rise to the challenge then?
Well, I think first of all we need to recognise the negative impacts that this proposed budget will have on us. And not only is Northern Ireland losing $4 billion over the next 4 years, but the impact upon the welfare, also the introduction of VAT 20%, potential withdrawal of military personnel, all will have its impact on the economy over and above the headline rates. In terms of how we respond, we have to be mature about this. This goes beyond parish pump politics. We have difficult decisions to take, and irrespective of whatever pleas are made to Nick Clegg and to David Cameron, we will ultimately have cuts to face. So it's imperative that we actually start to address that situation with the worst case scenario. If we gain anything from the talks that go on with David Cameron and Nick Clegg, then that's to our benefit. But it's absolutely necessary that we get our teeth into this issue.
But you say about getting your teeth into it. The Finance Minister will give ministers a rough idea of how much he thinks each department will have to save. But if you want to be more imaginative, you can be, in the sense you can agree to make more strategic cuts in some departments and free up money to spend in priority areas. Is that the kind of work you'd like to see the executive do?
Yes, and we also need to look at how we raise cash as well. Because we're looking at a situation where we're currently spending £1.6–1.8 billion in capital infrastructure. The proposals would indicate that we'd be spending £800 or £900 million each year. So you're looking at a 50% cut in terms of the capital infrastructure. That will have a devastating impact upon the construction sector, which is already on its knees. And we may be looking also at taking money out of current funding and putting it into capital funding, which would be a very big decision to take. We'd be looking at private-public partnerships and other means of raising funding.
Edwin Poots, the health budget, of course, is the one that everyone's looking at because of its size.
Yeah, and Michael McGimpsey believed that he could offer free prescriptions to people at the cost of 13 million. It's actually cost more than 20.
So you would favour scrapping the free prescriptions?
We also are looking at a situation on generic drugs where well over £20 million is being lost there because the Minister hasn't moved in that there.
But just to be clear on the prescriptions, because it is a key point, it's one that we did report recently on the BBC that has, the cost of it is much more than was initially anticipated. Do you think in light of that now that the executive should try and scrub those free prescriptions?
I think it's being hugely abused and we're looking at consultants also who are on six-figure sums getting a further £11 million top-up. And we do need to look at these things in the light of the circumstances that we're currently in Northern Ireland. And we need to challenge this type of spending. We can make a difference in health service without hitting the frontline services.
What about your own responsibility?
We can't just discount it altogether.
The review of public administration, you were criticised for not moving ahead with that. Some suggesting that RPA, as it's called, could be back on, if not in terms of merging the councils, but then at least in terms of all the services they provide and the business services organisation that was talked about. Can you impose that now on the councils in order to make savings?
I'd be quite happy to put RPA back on the executive table with option 5, which was the option that I wanted to go with in the first instance. That was the option with the business service organisation. The single waste authority was the option that identified the £400 million savings. Sinn Féin objected to both of those areas being put onto the table, and the savings there were 160 million, with 120 million pound being spent up front. So there was no real savings. I'm happy to go ahead with the 400 million pound savings if Sinn Féin are prepared to wear it, but so far they have been opposed to that. But if they want it back on the table, they want to talk about RPA, I'm very happy to talk about that issue.